on paper, it looks like a great team. What do you think the disconnect is between the Bills and postseason success? Because, like I said, they look so good on paper. They've got a great quarterback that's incredibly hard to stop. And maybe I feel like it's almost sacrilegious to like put any of this on Josh Allen. But like some of those big games, like he has some big turnovers and like as dynamic as he is, because I don't think they would be in the position that they would be in if it weren't for Josh Allen. But again, sometimes Josh Allen giveth and sometimes Josh Allen taketh. So do you think the ceiling once again is the Super Bowl for this team?
There's no question. They have the talent to win it all. The odds bear that out. I think with the Bills, there are two things to be concerned with. Number one is the AFC is just so tough. Like, how many times have they been so close to breaking through? They just happen to run into the Chiefs, you know? So there's no shame in that. Last year they ran into the Bengals. The Bengals have been to a Super Bowl. So it just goes to show that as good as you can be, the AFC is so tough to get out of. And then also, there is so much riding on the shoulders of Josh Allen. He is asked to do absolutely everything. And moving forward, like we always say with quarterbacks who pass and run the ball, we talk about Lamar Jackson a lot. Josh Allen is also in this category where you can only take so many hits running the football before you start to wear down. Josh Allen was sacked 33 times last season. So even when he's not running the ball and taking hits, he is being brought down behind the line of scrimmage. Now, I will give Buffalo credit. They did sign Connor McGovern from the Cowboys, David Edwards from the Rams. They drafted Osiris Torrance from Florida in the third round. So they're doing their best to put more protection in front of Josh Allen. But ultimately, I kind of feel like he needs another weapon or two just to help him out a little bit because he can only do so much. You're closer to the situation than we are. Is this a non-story? Was there something to it? And what is the situation now?
You know, my read on this story was that there might have been some miscommunication. But ultimately, I think when you saw Sean McDermott come back and kind of clarify that he, excused Stefon Diggs and kind of let him go, and there was like the confusion about the day before how he said he was concerned. I really read that as Sean McDermott somewhat falling on the sword for his player a little bit, because the comments he made the day prior didn't really jive with what he said in the press conference. So to me, I think that was a show of good faith by Sean McDermott to kind of back his player. And I really truly believe that this is just another summer storyline, I'll call it, in the NFL. We've seen this in years past with other players like Devontae Adams, receivers kind of getting involved in some of these storylines over the summer. And when it comes time for, the games to really start, these things tend to go away. And I expect that to be the situation again. I expect that as the Bills start camp today, you will see a lot of high fives and smiles between Josh Allen and Stefon Diggs. And I think ultimately Stefon Diggs will get asked about it. But I wouldn't be surprised if they try to put him in front of the press after maybe a good day of practice or some positive plays that happen in practice to kind of just put this thing to bed once and for all. I wouldn't read too much into it.
All right, so what's going to be different about the Bills this year? Because it almost feels like a boring team to talk about just because on paper, every single year, they're so good. And once again, like they look like a great team on paper. So if they win the Super Bowl this year, what's going to be the difference?
Well, I think there's two main things. One, I think the buck stops with Sean McDermott this year, right? There's no scapegoating anymore for the defense in these playoff sort of blunders that they've had, which I just mentioned a few minutes ago. Like the defense is going to start and end with Sean McDermott now. And so there's not going to be anyone really else to point to for any kind of defensive lapses, if you will, than Sean McDermott, which I also think ultimately becomes a positive because I do think we will see some changes in the defense. Obviously, the Bills lost Tremaine Edmonds in the offseason. A lot of chatter about how they were going to replace him. They didn't really do that in free agency, and in the draft, they drafted Dorian Williams, who's a little bit of a smaller size linebacker. So you wonder if the Bills might be thinking about doing something different with their linebackers this year. They signed Taylor Rapp from the Rams. Maybe they go with some more dime looks and get Taylor Rapp on the field. on the defense a little bit more this year and do some more interesting things there. And then on the offensive side of the ball, right, Ken Dorsey's going into year 2 as a play caller. Year 1 had its ups and downs. The Bills still ranked very well statistically, but had its ups and downs. If you follow the team closely, there were a lot of complaints about Ken Dorsey early in the season from the fans, from some media, about his creativity, and sort of wondering whether or not he was a guy that really could scheme guys open, give Josh Allen some layups. The involvement of Dawson Knox early in the season was something that came into question. He wasn't really being used that much after he signed that big contract. So I think Ken Dorsey going into year 2, figuring out how to better schematically allow Josh Allen some easier plays and not just be, hey, Josh, you're really great. Go back there, make something happen. Let's play some backyard football. That's not what we want to do this year.
What did you make of the Jaylen Brown contract? The richest contract in the history of the NBA for somebody who struggles to go to the left side, somebody who has 0 rings. What was your take here? I think I kind of led into what I think of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of money for the second best player on that team. If you even want to call him the second best, I think he is the second best player, but there are some arguments to make that maybe with Porzingis coming in, maybe the third. So not even the top player on your team, and you're paying him that much, and it's all guaranteed. That's just a ton. I mean, close to a championship roster, but if you look back at a lot of the championship teams in the past and their best player or their top 2 players, I don't think Jaylen Brown is at that same caliber. So you're giving him a ton of money, the richest contract in NBA history. If you're Jaylen Brown, you're like, oh my gosh, I just got away with murder taking this type of money. I mean, that is a lot. I don't like it. I'm not sure. I mean, Brad Stevens in that front office, he's a brilliant basketball mind, but I'm not quite sure what he's thinking with this one, because that is just way too money for a player of Jaylen Brown's caliber. I mean, even though he is very good, he's not worth that much money, I don't think.
We've hit pay dirt. Finally, some photographic proof of the woman, or the woman, I should say, that Tom Brady is supposedly romancing. So what was your initial reaction to Tom Brady in these photos with Irina Shayk?
Yes, well, good morning. Replace it with the TMZ bum 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 whole thing that they have going on, because this is the motherlode of not even rumors, because we had talked a couple weeks ago about we don't have any photos of him with Kim Kardashian kissing her, caressing her face, with them together out somewhere. We have now photos of Tom Brady and Irina Shayk very much giddy over each other. They are very much, they use the term dating very loosely over at TMZ, but I don't know if this is a dating situation, because they definitely hooked up. That's what happened. You could say that happened. She spent the night at his home in LA and then spent the next night also at his home in LA. She was wearing the same outfit the whole weekend because she lives in New York. So she's a light packing queen, this woman, because she lives in New York, and he flew her, or invited her to fly, I do not know who paid for the flight, out to LA to spend the weekend with him. So Tom Brady picked her up at a hotel in Bel Air, drove her in his Rolls Royce to his home in LA. They spent the night there, did not emerge from the home until 9:30 a.m. the next day. He then drove her back to the hotel. Then they again went back to his home. That's Saturday, I believe. So that was the itinerary of that weekend. And they were both glowing in these photos, and I must say video of him caressing her face in the Rolls Royce. I mean, this is her life. She is a supermodel who gets her face caressed in a Rolls Royce in LA by Tom Brady, the greatest football player of all time. I don't know how you go from there to anything that you could put together a sentence like that any better. I can't.
But she
I'm just
dated Ronaldo.
This is better.
Bradley Cooper.
No,
so
this is better.
This is her life.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, this is nothing to get your face caressed in a Rolls Royce by the best athlete of the sport ever.